Hey YouTube, it's Charlie from Reader Turned Writer, and today I am sharing my 2022 Bookish bullet journal. I'm really excited for some of the spreads that I have in my bullet journal for next year, and I love my bullet journal, so I love talking about it, but of course my husband gets a little bit tired of it, and so I'm really excited to be just sharing with you what I have so far for next year and show off some of these pages.
So I really like the minimalism art notebooks. That's what I've done every year, and I can link them, the ones that I get, down below, as well as my pens that I use. I use erasable pens to make the pages, and then I use colored pens, and I'll link those down below as well. And then I just use regular Crayola colored pencils to color in stuff. So I'm not super artsy with my bullet journal, just as much as I can, because I'm not really an artist, but I do like them to look cute, so I'm more orderly than artsy. So this first spread is just my calendar overview. I have each month here, you can see, and each month is a different color, and that is the color code for the rest of the bullet journal. So if I finish a book in January, then I'll do it in this color. If I finish it in August, then I'll do it in red, kind of thing. And these are just like the biggest events that take up my time that we have coming up. So like birthdays, holidays, anytime we're going to travel, I write it here, and then I can just see at a glance what I am planning to do that month that might take away from reading, writing, or YouTube time. The next spread is my book log. So I always write the book and the author name right here, and then I put the star rating and then the date that I finished it here. And I left plenty of pages to fill in so that hopefully I won't run out of room there. And then after that, I have this page, my favorite books of 2022, and at the end of the month I just pick my top 3 and put them here. And then at the end of the year, it's really easy to pick like my top 10 or something, because I just narrow down this list, and you can see it's color coded, so like 3 for January, February, March, etc. So then this page is just a place where I can write down the hard numbers for my stats page. So I'm going to go to my stats page, and then I'll come back to this one. So this is my stats page, and it is one of my favorite spreads of the whole bullet journal. I really love stats, and I just love looking at this one. So this is a graph for how many pages I read each month, which I keep track of in the back of my bullet journal. And so then at the end of the month, I just write how many pages I read, and then I fill it in with a graph. So then at the end of the month, I can see which months were my highest reading months per pages, because sometimes I can read a lot of books, but they're shorter books and not as many longer books. And so this helps give me like an accurate idea of how much I actually read. And then I keep track of how many female or male authors I read, how many of each star rating, how many of the age category, and how many read alouds I do with my kids, and then what format, so whether I got it from the library, whether it's an ebook, audiobook, or one that I owned, and then a reread or a new read, and then new releases. Here's my spot for how many books I bought or how many I got rid of. The genres, how many books I read that were part of a series, and then if I started a series or finished them or DNF'd a series. And then these are just the authors that I want to read. I have certain authors that I want to read more of, or all of their books, and so if I read one of those authors, then I get to mark here. How many readathons I participated in, how many books I own that I hadn't read that I read that month. And then Authortube author is just any authors that I found on Authortube or on Instagram. And then here's like my near future books that I've read. And then here I keep track of how many I read for my TBRs. So the way I use this page is, like I said, I wait until the end of the month to do this one. And then I also wait till the end of the month to do my monthly TBR and my unread library and readathons, just because then I can just look and see how many. But all of the rest of these, as I finish a book and I'm going through my bullet journal, then I just mark. So like if it was by a female author, I'll put a mark. By female authors, and an adult, I'll put a mark, kind of thing. At the end of the month, I add up all the tally marks, and I write down the hard numbers so that, you know, when I'm sharing it or going back to look, I don't have to sit and count all the tally marks. I can simply write it here. And because it's such a small space, I just have all of these abbreviated, but I understand what the abbreviations are, so it works. And then this page is just a visual representation of how many books I have read for the year, and my total is 180 books. And so this gives me a visual representation of that. After my stats page, starts my book lists. And so here is my first one, which is my TBR for the year of 2022. I always pick 36 books, so that's 3 books a month, which is very doable when I'm reading, 10 to 15 books a month. So then these are just ones that I really want to get to soon, and so I try and prioritize these over other books that I have or that I've been wanting to read. When I finish, I just color in the square next to it in the color of the month that I finished it in. So the S's next to them just indicate for me, they're just for my use, that these are parts of series, so that I know how many series I'm going to start, so I don't accidentally start series, because I do that sometimes. And then these dots mean that my library doesn't have them, so I'll have to find them somewhere else. And then this page is just a list of books that I would really like to reread sometime in the near future. That does not mean this year. I usually pick about 12 to prioritize, and then I usually read, maybe a few more throughout the year, but I do prioritize new reads over rereads, but I do like to reread at least 1 book a month. And so these are all just books that I want to keep on my radar. If I make a list of books that I want to reread, then I can pick them from here. The next page is my series spread, and a few years ago, I separated them out into these different categories so that I could more easily see what was going on with my series, because I do tend to have a problem with being in the middle of too many series. Last year I made a lot of progress with them, so I was really happy with that, and I'm hoping to keep up with them this year and continue to keep them less. I would really like to be under 25 series that I am actively in the middle of. So these are the series that I have started that I am planning to finish. The orange squares are ones that I have already read in the series, and the blank squares I just fill in as I read that number in the series with whatever color I read. If I read it in August, I do red. These are series that I have started, but that the author hasn't actually released all of the books, so there is no way for me to actually finish them, but I want to keep them on my radar because when they come out, I want to read them. And I'm very excited because the 4th Wax and Wayne book is coming out in 2022, and I cannot wait. We have been waiting a long time for that book. These are series that I really want to start that I haven't started, but I want to keep them on my radar because I want to start them. I was just trying to get through some of my series that I'm already in the middle of to finish those off. And these are ones that I've started that I potentially could read more of. I haven't officially decided not to read more of them, but I'm not actively reading them because I'm not sure I want to continue reading them. I just haven't decided yet if I want to continue with them or not. So my classic spread, here is a list of classics that I haven't read yet that I would really like to read. And then on this side are classics that I have read that I would love to reread. And I usually choose 6 to 12 classics to read a year. And you can see here I've picked 4 new classics that I would like to prioritize next year and 3 rereads that I would like to prioritize next year. And we will see if that actually happens or not. Classics for me are probably where I'm the most of a mood reader because classics can be harder to get through. So I really have to want to read it in order to pick it up. Some of these I really do want to get to, and some of them I can read with my kids. Like I have Heidi here because I would love to read that with my girls. I read that as a child and I'd love to share it with them. The next page is comic books that my brother has recommended that I read because he loves reading comic books. And a few years ago, I watched all of the Marvel movies that were out. My husband and I did a Marvel movie marathon after Endgame and just watched them all in order. Since then, I've been trying to read some more of the comics. I usually read a few a month. This is just where I can keep track of the ones that my brother has told me he thinks I would like. And when I finish, I just color in the square. Here's my new releases page. It's pretty empty so far because I don't have a lot of new releases that I know about. In fact, all of these are new releases that I had on my list last year for 2021 that I do want to get to still. Any from 2022 that I find, I will put here on this list, and then when I'm done with it, I will color it in. And over here, I actually, when I write the release date, like if it's comes out in March, then I'll write March 2022 and I'll put it in green so that I can really easily glance and be like, oh, these are the new releases this month. And then this is my Read Alouds for Homeschool page where I keep track of all of the books that I want to read with my kids. These 12 up here are the ones that I would like to prioritize during the year. So I usually get through about 1 a month, but if they're short, then sometimes I can get through more than 1. And then the rest are just ones that I might want to get to. These down here are ones that I that my kids really enjoyed and I also enjoyed reading with them, and so we might reread them. This is my near future reads page, and these are just books that I have either heard a lot about or wanted to read for a long time and never gotten to, and they've never been on one of my TBRs, so I haven't gotten to them, so they're here. And this is a really good list for things like if a book is on sale, like an ebook, or I find it at a thrift store or something, then I will definitely buy it because I wanted to read it for so long. Here are my Authortube finds page, and these are just books that I want to read from authors that I found on Authortube or Instagram. So most of them are either indie authors or were published by a small publisher. And then these are my authors that I want to read more by them. I enjoyed what I read, but I haven't actually committed to reading all of their books yet. And so, or I know I don't want to read all of their books, like Roald Dahl. I'm not actually sure I want to read all of his books, but I know that I want to read more by him. And then here is my spread for the authors that I do want to read all of. The green boxes are the ones that I have already read by them, and then the blank ones are obviously ones I haven't read. And so I'd love to read like Agatha Christie or like J.R.R. Tolkien. I've read everything but the Silmarillion, but that one's pretty daunting. And this is a couple pages, the spread takes up a couple pages. And then at the end, here is my collection of authors that I have read all of their books. So like Brandon Sanderson. And I have them here because first of all, I just want to remember that I read all of their books. I don't think I'd forget, but also just like as Brandon Sanderson comes out with new books, I want to keep up with them and continue reading all of his new releases. And then I have my nonfiction spreads. So I have a lot of nonfiction books that I really want to read. Since joining Authortube, I've read a lot more novels than nonfiction books, which is fine because I really enjoy novels, but this is just a way for me to keep my nonfiction books more up front, kind of like in front of my eyes so that I don't forget about them. And I have them kind of organized into different categories like writing, crafts, self-help, simple living, business, finance, parent, homeschool, and I have a lot of those that I want to read. Religion, I also have a lot of those. Politics, history, marriage, and biographies. This is also one of my favorite spreads. I love the way that this looks every single year. So it's just a bookshelf of all of the books that I have read that I don't own that I would like to own. And so then when I buy it, I color in the book in the color of that month that I bought it. This is just a really fun visual way for me to keep track of how many books I've bought. And then at the end I have blank books so that if I want to buy a book, then I can write them in as I buy them and color it in for that month as well, and I have a spot to put those. And then this here is just where I keep track. The top box I put what my budget is, and then at the bottom I put how much I actually spent. And then right next to that I have my library books catalog. Here I write the book name, and then I write the format. This is actually new this year because I've started getting audiobooks and ebooks from my library. So here I can write if it was an audiobook or an ebook, and then I can write the due date, and if I renew it I can write that date here, but I don't have to. When I'm done with it, I just color in a square right here under read, and then once I return it next to the due date I just put a check mark. This page, books to give away, I really enjoy giving books away to people. It's one of my favorite things to do, and so last year I tried to find someone each month to give a book to, and I want to try that again this year. And so these are just the ideas of what book to who that I have, and then when I give it away I can color in the box. And then right here, this page is also new. It's a way for me to track the children's books that I buy for my kids because I love buying children's books as well. And so when I buy one, I can just write the name of it in the square and color it in. Now we're moving away from book stuff and more into my writing and goal things. So this is my main stats and goals page for writing in BookTube. So I keep track of my weekly word count here, and then at the end of the month I add it up to how many words I wrote total that month. Here I write down which craft book I am currently reading because I like to be reading a writing craft book pretty much all the time. I usually take December off. And then here I just put a check mark, or if I uploaded to writing group, and if we met as a writing group, or an X if we didn't, just so I can see at the end of the year how our writing group's doing. And then current projects, this is just a spot for me to keep track of what I'm currently working on. So like my first draft Rapunzel or final draft Rapunzel, whatever. Editing Rapunzel. And then here is my monthly percentage of just where I'm at in this current project. So here's my word count, and then I can write the percentage here. And then over here is BookTube and Instagram and stuff like that. And so I have a personal blog, so I write how many posts I did and the view count of those posts. Usually I do one, and I usually get like 5 to 10 views because it's just a little personal blog. It's kind of like a journal for me, but it's fun to keep track of views. These ones I fill in usually at the end of the month. So at the end of the month, I just put how many uploads I did total on YouTube and how many subscribers I now have. And then I break down the uploads into these categories here of how many I did of each. And then I do the same thing for Instagram. So I have how many pictures I uploaded, how many followers I have, break down my uploads in my posts into these categories. And then here I can write the increase in subs or followers. And then on this page, I write down my weekly words here. And then if I hit my goal of 2,500 words, then I can color in this box. And if I didn't, then I put an X there so that I can see how well I'm doing on my goals each week. So then here I put how many words I'm at total with my project, and here I put what percentage I'm at with my project. Down here I have a space where I can put my main writing goals for the year, what I would like to work towards accomplishing. And if I don't, that's okay, but that's kind of what I'm working towards so that I can kind of base my trajectory and see if I'm headed in the right direction, if I need to increase my goals, those kinds of things. And then here is a writing streak page. I actually took this out of my last bullet journal, but I've continued to do a writing streak, and I just really like this page. It's very satisfying to color in the boxes for writing every day. And then here's kind of like my goal for what I want to do for when I want to write and things like that. Here are just some notes on writing that I have that I'd like to keep in mind. And here I have a place to put down ideas for the different categories of creative things that I do. Here's a place that I can write down notes about my target audience for novels and YouTube. And here is a page that I have for writing down ideas for things that I want to do differently next year in my bullet journal, or new pages that I have. And then I just have some blank pages here that I can take notes in or do whatever with. I like having some blank pages between. So then at the end of my bullet journal, I have a page to keep track of my gospel study, so I can write down what I'm going to do each week for gospel study and mark it in as I do it. And then I have some goals for what I want to do during the year, some things that I would like to be focusing on religious-wise. And then here, I write down my favorite book quotes, and I write down the quote in the color from the month that I read that book. So if I read it in February, then I write the quote in pink, and I just write it galactically over the page, and it usually turns out looking pretty cool. And then here I have a space to put down reading goals and more social media writing goals for the whole year. And this is where I put in my yearly stats using the monthly stats that I've kept track of all year. And then I have a spread for every month that is just like this, the same spread for every single month. Here I write down the books I read, and right here I put down their page numbers, and I might change this next year. At the bottom, I will average out how many pages I had per book, and then I have donated and bought. I write down the names of which books I donated and which books I bought there so that I can keep track of that. And then here is just a way for me to look at my trajectory for writing and YouTube, and then if I need to make any changes based off of that, then I can. And I can also look at last month's or last year's words and videos and just see what is working and what's not. Here is just my calendar that I like. Notes here, I usually will decide like what craft book I'm going to write, and I might keep other notes here. Here I write down the blog posts that I post, because I usually do them on Sundays, and then I just color this whole thing in with a solid color. And then these are the Instagram pictures that I have planned, and if I change them, it's an erasable pen, so I can just erase it and change it. And then once I post it, then I can color this in. I usually come at the end of the week and fill all of this in with the colors. And then these I color in darker on the outside and lighter on the inside. These are the videos that I am planning to post, and once I post them, then I color them in on the day that I did them. And then over here at the end of the month, I can write down how many views the videos that I posted that week got. And then this page, here is where I put my monthly TBR. So the first 3 on my TBR are for my yearly TBR list. Then I choose my reread. I choose my writing craft book here. The first 10 are ones that I'd like to prioritize, and the next 5 are ones that are nice to keep track of. If I DNF any from my TBR list, I put it here. I write how many out of the first 10 that I prioritized that I got, and how many out of the total 15 that I got. Then here, these are just like writing and social media goals for the month of things that I would like to focus on. Over here, this is where I write down all of the ebooks, audiobooks, and hard copy books that I have, that I own, that I haven't read yet. And as I read them, then I can color them in, and the next month I won't put them on this list anymore. And this is just a spot to keep track of the stats from here. So, and then I have that for every single month through the end of the year. And then that is the end of my bullet journal. So I really love my Bookish bullet journal. I have a lot of fun with it. I will often open it up and fill in stuff as I finish a book. And if I don't end up doing that, then I always open it up and fill in stuff during the weekend when I do my planning for the week. That is my bullet journal. If you liked my video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for lots of reading and writing content. If you have a bullet journal, I would love to hear about it in the comments below, or just tell me how you keep track of your reading or writing stats and stuff. I'd love to hear about it. We can chat more. Thank you so much for watching my video. I will see you in the next one.